afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Indie Business Radio for Monday, February 18th, 2008. I'm your host, Donna Maria, and you have arrived at the one place where we empower you to enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way. Today's show is sponsored by Essential Wholesale, with one of the largest selections of natural and organic unscented cosmetics bases in the world. Stock and custom formulations are available. Visit essentialwholesale.com for more information. Well, we all know that the number of perfection is said to be 7, and perhaps that's why today's guest, Stephen S. Little, called his book The 7 Irrefutable Rules of Small Business Growth. Whatever the case, it's one thing to start a business, it's quite another to grow one into a profitable enterprise that not only makes money, but also generates a profit. Today, we're going to be talking about that with Stephen, the author of this great book. You can join the discussion at 800-773-0355 or email your questions or comments to info@indiebusinessradio.com or visit our blog at indiebusinessblog.com. Today's Indie co-host is Cheryl Nemela of Good Times Bath & Body in Minnesota. Cheryl, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Donna Marie. I'm honored to be here.
Yes, well, you know, I tooled on over to your website, of course, the minute you joined the Indie Beauty Network, which was actually not too long ago. I'm going to ask you a little bit about what attracted you to us, but I want to invite everyone to visit your website at good-times.com, and Times is, of course, spelled like the herb, T-H-Y-M-E-S, good-times.com, and you've got Good Times Bath & Body over there.
Yes, we do.
This is a really, I love your website.
Thank you, Donna Marie, very much. I can't take a lot of credit for it. My graphic designer has done all the work, but we worked with her hard on it.
Well, it's really great. Tell me a little bit, Cheryl, about how you started your business.
Well, Donna, I've always been a stay-at-home mom, had a passion for cooking and baking and gardening, and as a stay-at-home mom, one of my therapies for self-care was taking tub baths, and about 6 years ago, I found out that I could make my own tub treats, and it was just kind of a culmination of all of my passions coming together, and I started making them for myself and friends, and my daughters actually encouraged me to go to a craft show. Mm-hmm. We did that and almost sold out by the end of the night, and had a store owner approach us and ask if we would be willing to retail at their store, and it just sort of took off and happened. It wasn't something that I was really planning every step along the way. It just kind of really unfolded for us. And then for a few years, we kind of did the craft shows. We did some home parties, added a few new products, got a few new store accounts. And so we were kind of doing it more as a hobby. And then about 2 years ago, we started considering a website. And I stumbled upon Marcy, our graphic designer. And she liked our products, and she proposed to us about kind of redoing all our packaging and promotional literature and a website. And I realized at that point that if we did that, we could take it to a whole nother level. And I had to make a real big business decision. Do I want to do this? Am I ready to do this? And so I with the support of my family, I made the decision to let's go for it. And it's just kind of been still unfolding for us ever since. Marcy really...
How long ago was that first craft show? When was that?
That was the fall of 2003.
So it's only been 3 years, not even quite that long. Oh,
yep.
5 years.
Yeah, you're right, yes.
Wow. And so when did you take the plunge with this graphics designer and make the big investment?
That was not quite 2 years ago now. I disconnected with her, I think it was in March or April of 2006. And it took us a whole year to actually to do all the packaging, get all the packaging together, the website, promotional literature. So we've only been actually online not quite a year now.
Wow.
With our own website.
You have a lot of products in your line, too. How many do you have?
I'm not even sure. I couldn't even tell you. Right now, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's really great. I mean, you've got bath butters, you've got
bath fizzies, lip balm.
Yeah.
Body cream, lotion, soap, some specialty soaps, our gift baskets.
So, Cheryl, tell me, what do you think? Some people say that the 5th year in business is kind of magical, and you're about at that point right now. Tell us what your experience is in terms of now you've arrived at your 5th year.
I'll have to say that the beginning of this year, we very excitedly have done some real big marketing opportunities, and that's definitely kind of finally taken us over into getting into the black, and so that's been really exciting. I know some companies probably could have done what we've done a lot faster, but always trying to keep our families first. We've just taken things really slowly and wanted to be really sure of where we were heading.
I know exactly what you mean. I have a family as well. I do the same thing. But I've got 2 kids, and you have a few more than that. Tell us how many you have.
Well, we have 8 children.
And so what is it like having so many directions that your life has to go in every day, and then add to that a business? What is that? How do you manage that?
It can be hard, but 4 of our children are already away from home. So I have 4 children at home. So actually for me that feels a lot more manageable to run a business than it did when I had 8 at home. I don't think I could have done this when I had 8 children at home. And I think for me, as my children have gotten older now, my youngest is 10, I don't have to do all the self-care for them that I used to have. And so I have some free time. Mm-hmm. And also being a stay-at-home mom for so many years, there's times that you really struggle with your self-identity. You need to be more than just mom. And this is kind of really helped me, finally having a chance to work with my passions and to work with my experiences and my talents, doing something that I love to do, but also that my whole family supports me, and we all actually work at it together too. So it's challenging, but it's doable, and I think you just have to really balance things and know what your priorities are. And
find the Indie Beauty Network, Cheryl.
Pardon me?
How did you find the Indie Beauty Network?
I was looking for liability insurance.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and I did have some with a company before, and it was very, very expensive, and I just kept thinking there must be something out there somewhere that I could hook up with, and I happened to find you, and I have been thankful ever since.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, I just am enjoying reading these different fragrance options that you have at your website. Some of the more interesting ones, well, they're all really interesting, but honeydew and lavender sounds so fascinating. And then you have something that's new, I guess, called berries and cream. How do you think up these different scents? We have berry almond. One of my daughters that works with me has an incredible
sense of smell. And she works a lot with our sense. She understands the notes and the tones of sense, and I'm very fortunate that she loves to do that, and she's come up with some of those. And we kind of we have this little testing method, and it's kind of maybe a little joke, but when we come up with a fragrance or a product, we always say it has to make everybody's socks roll up and down. We call it the sock test. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't make everyone's socks roll up and down, we don't consider it. And
have your own built-in testing system.
Yes. And so our Julie is often the one that initiates things and comes up with our sense, but we all have to be in agreement that it is absolutely wonderful, that we all love it, and that's kind of how our deciding factor of if we will take it the next step, have other people test it for us.
I bet it's fun also to be able to share an entrepreneurial experience with your children at home.
It really is. It really is. My oldest daughter is a certified massage therapist and a licensed esthetician, so she helps with skincare issues and has a lot of knowledge that she brings into this.
This is Steve Little.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm so excited to hear all the details about your business, and we're going to be talking with you throughout the rest of the show and get some tips from you as well as from our guest, Steve Little, who's going to be joining after our first break.
Well, thank you, Donna Marie.
This is Indie Business Radio. We'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And GlobalTalkRadio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. GlobalTalkRadio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Indie Business Radio. I'm your host, Donna Maria, and we're here talking to Cheryl Niemela, my guest co-host. She gave us a little bit of a rundown about how she started her business 5 years ago, and now she's gotten to the point, she says, where she's in the black, and she is actually in a growth mode now, and it's perfect timing for her to be the guest co-host because that is today's guest specialty, helping businesses grow. Stephen S. Little is the author of The 7 Irrefutable Rules of Small Business Growth. He's a business consultant and a speaker and just an all-around interesting guy who calls himself the business growth expert. So we are so excited to have him here today. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you, Donna Maria. I appreciate being here.
Well, Stephen, tell us a little bit about how you got started with the business that you have here doing writing and consulting.
Sure. Well, I had been president of 3 fast-growth companies myself over about a 15-year period, and anytime you have any level of success, you get asked to speak in your community or in your industry. I just found I liked talking about it and writing about it more than I liked actually doing it, and so for the last 10 years or so, I've dedicated myself to studying what separates organizations that grow from organizations that don't grow.
And then you share that, you package that information up in your speaking engagements and books, and here we all are.
That's exactly right. Do about 100 cities a year last year, and probably do about the same this year.
Well, now, Stephen, in this book, how did you narrow things down to 7?
Well, that's a good question. You know, it was actually expanded. It had been 5 for a while, and was convinced by people in audiences who had what I call sustained growth. Sustained growth for me is 5 years of 20% or greater each year, both top line and bottom line. So 20% growth in both profit and sales. People who have that would come to me and say, you know, I like your list, but you're missing one. And over time, after I heard a few, I actually added. So we expanded to a total of 7 that made sense to me over about an 8-year period by the time I wrote the book.
Now, are these 7 rules that any business can apply, do you think, or do you have to have certain criteria? Do you have to have a certain number of employees, or, I mean, is this something that can apply to any business across the board? Are they that general?
Well, they certainly are, and what they really do is they go somewhat in sequential order, and often things dovetail, of course, but it starts with the beginning, and then it really hopes that you then expand upon that. And so the first rule being having a strong sense of purpose. That could be if you're thinking about a startup. That could be if you're a one-person operation. But then, yes, once you get into about some of the other rules, like rule number 6, you start talking about people and having employees.
Well, now, I have another question about it's this sort of interesting idea about rule number 1, and it makes some sense, obviously, to have a sense of purpose behind your business. But my question is, I want your take on all of the rhetoric these days out in the business world about making millions.
Mm-hmm, right.
Every time I turn around, I'm hearing that is the sense of purpose that so many people have. There's TV shows, there's late night advertorials or whatever you want to call them, little things that look like talk shows, and they have these people and they just come on and they're like, I'm making money hand over fist and I'm not doing anything. And I mean, what do you think about all that? Is that something new, or is that something that's been around for a while? It's just being packaged in a different way, and does it annoy you as much as it annoys me?
It certainly annoys me, and in fact, I address it quite at length in the book, because when you look at people who have achieved sustainable, profitable growth over a long period of time, the one thing you can say for sure is that it's never about money. Mm-hmm. It's never about wealth accumulation. Wealth accumulation is the byproduct of people who dedicate themselves to a worthy purpose. And I'm often asked, hey, Steve, I'm thinking about starting a business. What kind of business should I go into? And what they're really saying is, where can I find it easy and where can I make money quickly? And, of course, it's the wrong question to be asking. And the real question is, where am I uniquely qualified to be successful, and what do I look forward to doing for a long period of time? What I'll always say is that wealth accumulation is always the byproduct of people who dedicate themselves to that which they truly find meaningful. Sometimes people say you should do what you love. It's not always true. Not everything in a business, for instance, not every aspect of that business will everyone love. Mm-hmm. But you better have passion for everything you do a lot of. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be for every aspect, but there certainly has to be that purpose-driven passion for the things you spend the most time on. And nothing really can get around that. Money will get you out of bed for maybe 5 years. Wealth accumulation is fun for a time. But then people, regardless of age, they mature and they realize that money isn't. We're all taught from small children in almost every culture that money can't buy you happiness.
Right.
But somehow we need to prove it to ourselves. And once people attain that level of success or monetary reward, they start realizing that it is pretty hollow and isn't going to be the thing that's going to drive them forward.
So that first step, establish and maintain a strong sense of purpose behind the idea or business, is that probably pretty much the easiest thing you'll do as a business owner?
I find it relatively easy, and those that have had success do, but I am struck by the number of people who say to me, I don't know what I enjoy. I don't know what I like to do. I've been doing this job for a long time. I know I don't like it, mm-hmm. and I want to do something else, but I don't know what I love. And so it's maybe not unlike personal relationships, where people will say, I just want to get married. I don't know who it is, but I just want to get married. And, of course, that's probably not a successful way to go about a relationship. It's not that you want to get married or that you want to have a relationship. It's that you meet someone. Same thing happens in business. It is not that you just determine, I can't stand my job anymore, so I'm going to start something, but I don't know what. That would not be a good way to start. It would be, I am driven. I have to. People who have sustained growth will always say it this way. I didn't see this as a risk. I had to do this. This was not only a tremendous opportunity, but I couldn't sleep nights until I did it. I knew that I had a calling. I had to go do this.
So when you find that one thing, or there may be more than one, that make your heart sing, that you can also turn into a profit, you move to your next step here, and let's see what it is, research, analyze, and fully understand the industry in which your business operates and the market where it serves and competes. So This is where you're rolling up your sleeves and really getting your feet dirty. Thoroughly
understanding a marketplace is critical to the success. All of my rules...
Business planning, right?
I'm sorry?
This is the first step to business planning, right?
It certainly would be the first step, and hopefully you do it before you sink a lot of time, money, and effort. But it's important to note that I'm never so presumptuous as to tell people what to do to grow their businesses. Instead, what I do is I suggest that there are areas in which you concentrate time, money, and effort. And so putting time, money, and effort is one of the areas in which growth leaders, people who achieve growth, whether it's in a small business, a larger business, a for-profit, a non-profit, faith-based organizations, people who thoroughly understand the marketplace get there by putting time, money, and effort into it. What they do with that information is then up to them. That's where the innovations, the evolutions, the revolutions, they come from the thorough understanding. I use a lot of analogies. I guess I'm a speaker. The analogy here that I think maybe makes some sense is that Picasso became a master after mastering the things that had come before him. He didn't start as an innocent. He didn't become a master of his craft by just inventing it in a bubble. He was a student. He studied it. He understood it, and became quite successful even in his own time. Hard to do in the art world. He was a great entrepreneur. He understood the changing forces, and he understood where the market had been and where it appeared to be going, and he met a need that also met his need, and that is the same in business.
Do you find, Stephen, that a lot of people want to skip this step?
Yes. Or they fool themselves into believing they've done it. How
do you know when it's done?
You probably don't. You probably don't have a yardstick that says, okay, I've put enough time, money, and effort into understanding the market. And, of course, you're never done because the market changes. It's a fluid situation. One of the greatest errors people make is they'll say, I've been working for this big company for a long time, and therefore I know everything there is to know about this industry, and I'm going to go now do it myself because I've learned, and what so often happens is they know it from a very narrow perspective. They know it from the perspective of that business. And, of course, the business is usually larger, and they cannot really replicate or use the information that they think is so valuable because they don't have the critical mass to do so.
Yeah, and I would think that even so, it's so much easier today than ever before to really research and analyze a market because we have the Internet.
Oh, no question. You know, when I began my career with a large advertising agency in Chicago, Illinois, when my boss's boss's boss wanted to know the price of tea in China, that was a 2-day process for me as a junior person to go get pieces of information that are now at everyone's fingertips. So, yes, it's absolutely easier, and therefore there's no excuse for not having a thorough understanding of that market.
I was just thinking the same thing. We are really without excuse nowadays. So then you write a sound business plan, and this is something I think that terrifies a lot of people. Steve, do you have to have, a big plan that's spiral bound with pie charts and colors and all sorts of things? I mean, I know every business is different, but let's talk about people starting out for the first time, and they really are working on something that they consider a passion. They're going to make a real unique and definitive contribution to the world, and a lot of people get scared off by what they think a business plan is. So.
Well, there's different, semantics are funny here. There is the business plan that is big, bound, beautiful, that you would do perhaps to get money from a bank or from vendors.
Right.
But what I really hone in on and target is that people who have sustained growth have an internal plan that's for them. And it has three things to be effective. It's written. It's not just spoken. It's well communicated throughout the organization. And then as circumstances dictate, it becomes regularly updated.
Right.
As long as it's written, communicated, and updated, I like it. And here's what I try to help people with, is to understand that this should be a competitive advantage. It shouldn't be seen as a something we have to get through that's going to be painful.
Mm-hmm.
It actually, if you talk to business growth leaders, they will say one of their keys to success was that they had a planning process in place, a system, if you will, that differentiated them from their competition. Only 12% of privately held companies in the U.S. have a written plan that's well communicated and regularly updated. When you look at the people who have sustained growth, my number is usually a little over 80%. When I talk to people, groups where they're people that have had it, it's right over 80% every time that people who have the sustained growth of 5 years, 20% or greater, they're going to be much more likely to have that written plan that's internal. It's a homegrown system, I call it. They do it themselves. They call it what they want to call it. They do it when they think it should be done. They don't follow other people's boilerplates. They develop a system that others then come study later after they've had success.
Right, right. And to some extent, Steve, would you agree that the research and analysis that you're doing, if you're writing it down and basically categorizing it, that's pretty much your business plan?
That's a good way to look at it. And what I also say is this. One of my heroes is Mark Twain, great American. Mark Twain said something, he said a lot of funny things, but one of the funny things he said once was, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have time. Same is true with planning.
I like that.
That it is very difficult to get your business down to its pithy essentials.
Right.
To throw a 50-page document of everything you've ever thought or known about an industry and all your competitive information and all the ideas you have on opportunities, that's a much easier process. But it's a daunting project, one you don't want to necessarily update regularly, and certainly hard to communicate.
Right.
To get your business down, regardless of the size, down to the pithiness of, I say 15 pages maximum. And if you get it down to 5, that's better, but it'll take you years to get that good.
Well, Steve, your next step has to do with being customer-centric. And I know Cheryl has a question about this based on something that she read recently in one of a report she found on the Internet. Cheryl, do you want to ask Steve about that?
Sure. Steve, I had read a memo from Roy Wilson, and he is, this memo was about the society's pendulum, which is going from the idealist perspective to the civic perspective. And so how that will affect consumer spending is, he says that service and selection are still matter, but not nearly as much as they once did. So everything is going to be about quality and price, and right now. I want it right now. And he also says that organizations built on high-touch relationships, selling, will decline. And I just want to know how you interpret that, and if you agree, and if you do, then what does that mean to people like me and other indies who have based a lot of our business on this consumer relationship? We're trying to establish a relationship with our customer and to keep them, and also we're not saying that we're going to ship out this product to you the second we get your order, because I'm going to hand make this for you fresh, and it's going to take me a couple of days to do this.
Well, here, a couple of broad thoughts come to mind. One is that, of course, difficult for me to criticize or to take to task someone else's words that I only have a couple sentences on. So taking it out of context, it often leads to misunderstandings. What I know to be true is that there's nothing new under the sun as it relates to serving others. And so in the world of business, we don't get to escape the general rules of any organization, be it a government, an educational institution, a for-profit, a non-profit. Regardless, you have really just people carrying out processes. That's how you wage a war. That's how you educate a child. And that's how you win, hopefully, at the game of business and grow. And so understanding those needs of those you serve is how you grow a business. And what those needs are becomes the problem, because here's the greatest barrier to growth on this particular rule. Too often in industries and in companies and in organizations in general, they internally define better. What is better? And so they decide internally that this is what people want. This is better for them. And the marketplace starts to shift, but they don't see it, or they don't want to hear it, or they ignore it. I worked in eyewear and eye care early in my career. And there was a large organization around the country that was the leader in eyewear and eye care. Once LensCrafter came out with glasses in about an hour, and they had 2 stores in Cincinnati, Ohio, this large entity said, that's not important. Customers don't care about that. Of course, here we are 25 years later, the marketplace did care about that. They did care about time. And so meeting the needs of a specific group of people is absolutely critical. You don't have to meet everyone's needs, but understand how large is the need that you're meeting. Is it growing? Can we grow with this changing dynamic happening in the marketplace? We know the market so well. Indeed, we know the customer so well. We know customers' needs before they can identify them. You know, there's an old saying that people have said for years, that the customer is always right. And the customer is always right in a customer service environment. But when it comes to new product development, growth initiatives, things that get organizations like yours to another level, the customer is rarely right. You and I have to know customers' needs better than they know them themselves. Your customer cannot articulate what you can do to better serve them.
We're going to take a break and come back and continue that discussion, and also cover the other 3 irrefutable rules of small business growth with our guest today, Stephen S. Little. This is Donna Maria, Indie Business Radio. We'll be right back.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning their new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to Indie Business Radio. I'm Donna Maria. We're talking to Stephen S. Little, the author of the 7 Irrefutable Rules of Small Business Growth. And before our break, Stephen, we were talking about your rule number 4, which is be customer-centric, stay in touch with customers, their wants and their needs. And when we're talking about kind of this mindset that at least one person had, that sort of the high-touch business environment, stay in touch with your customers, even if it makes you inefficient, is going to cause businesses to basically die if they take that kind of attitude. And your take on it seems to be that that may be in some instances true, but you have to know your own business and your own customers and deliver the kind of centricity that they need and come to expect from you in your particular case. That
in essence is right. If I was Sears and I was thinking about how to compete in appliances with Lowe's and Home Depot, they can talk about customers, quote unquote, in broad general terms. If you're a small business in a specific geography that has very specific needs, then it's hard to make generalizations, and indeed it's dangerous to make generalizations about customers. What I know for would be helpful to your audience is that, like never before, we have a customer of one. That's my words. My friend Joe Calloway wrote a great book called Customer of One, and it literally means that there is no such thing as customers anymore. There are individuals that have specific needs, and to try to generalize those needs is dangerous, especially if you're small, because if you're small, you can serve a smaller market segment that may not be where the general market's heading, but it may be perfectly suited for what you're trying to do.
Right. So, Cheryl, it sounds like if it's working for you, you'd keep doing it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, Steve's rule about, your business plan, you update it and change it as circumstances require. And I think that's really great advice. Steve, your rule number 5 is systematize operations planning and use technology wherever possible. I love this. I always say make technology your slave. Tell us a little bit about systematizing things.
We live in an information age, and throughout the history of mankind, the use of tools has defined success and failure. Whether it was a Stone Age or a Bronze Age or an Iron Age, agrarian society, industrial age, you and I now live in an information age, and how we use the tools of our time will dictate success or failure for most of us. And I can say it in the simplest terms possible. If you're in business, you're in the technology business. There's really no exception.
That's absolutely true. I love that you said that. I had a conversation with someone doing a radio show not too long ago, and she has a pretty successful business, and she has some assistants and a few employees, and everything's rolling along. And I was asking her about, maintaining her blog and some other of the technological tools she's used. She said, I don't know anything about any of that stuff.
Right.
And I thought, well, I think you might want to learn.
Yeah. And, I'll be honest with you, I have pushback on this on a daily basis. If I didn't believe it so strongly, I'd let it go, because sometimes I'm not sure it's the sword I want to fall on. People are bitten by technology. They get, it doesn't always work the way they want it to, and it's hard. It's like a foreign language to so many people. But what is true is that there's always a way that technology can interface with your business to improve it. What happens is that they hear technology, but they think software. They hear technology, they think the web. They hear something that I'm not saying. I just was in Cancun. It sounds nice, but when you're working, it doesn't matter if you're in Cancun or Des Moines, right? And so I was there for a 2-day conference with petroleum executives, people who manufacture equipment for the petroleum industry. And they said, a lot of pushback. No, you don't understand. The web wouldn't be good for our kind of a business. And I said, who said the web? I didn't say anything about the web. And then we started talking more, and I said, tell me how you do hiring. Tell me how you're doing training. Explain to me your back of house delivery systems, EDI, electronic data interchange. Let's talk. Oh, we do all that. Well, then technology is certainly a key component. And to so often we are afraid of the technology we don't understand or that we've determined isn't good for us, but yet we use technology in so many different ways. Improving on that to make us faster, cheaper, and better and smarter than ever before is critical.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And smart, too, to also make sure that you incorporate technology into part 3 when you're writing your plan. How are you going to use technology to be successful?
It is one of the ways you can clearly differentiate yourself from your competition. Not only your competition in your product service category, but in your geography, and even in how you go about rule number 6, which is finding and keeping the best and brightest people.
Well, now that seems kind of obvious. It's not always so easy, though, is it?
No, in fact, it's funny. All my rules are pretty obvious. So the question becomes, why don't we do what we know would be good for us? It's not unlike the discussion of what leads to a better life. We know that more exercise, eating right, spending more time with our families is a good idea to help live a better life. But we don't always do what is good for us. Same is true in our businesses. No one ever argues with me that planning is not a good idea, but they don't do it. They don't always do it effectively.
It's hard, Steve.
It is hard. Hey, it's real hard. And so when it comes to rule number 6, finding and keeping the best and brightest, that is the most important rule. And people know it, but in my new book, I call it the people problem. Everyone understands that there's a people problem, that they have a people problem, but they don't do enough about it, and that becomes the real problem.
Yeah, well, it's a full-time job.
No question. And as you get bigger, it only gets more difficult.
Of course, if you're like Cheryl and your daughters work for you, it's a little bit different.
That's a whole other set of rules, isn't it? As we grow from a family business, though, into needing more people, it's hard to keep having daughters, so we have to find other ways to grow, and people help us grow. And what ends up being the job of a business growth leader is that they have to put time, money, and effort into becoming an expert on the people problem. And so many of us matriculate into our businesses because we love the thing. If we love to bake cakes, we bake cakes. And if we love to write insurance policies, we write insurance policies. But we don't necessarily love finding people who do the thing. And unfortunately, for so many, that becomes the ceiling. That becomes where they plateau because they're not willing to become an expert in the people doing the thing. I just was lucky enough, it sounds like name dropping, and it is, but I was at a conference recently where Jack Welch, the former head of GE, was speaking, and he was parroting what I'm saying right now, and was saying, until you will not be a true growth leader in your business, regardless of size, until you start to understand that other people's success is your success, and that looking forward to seeing other people thrive, even moving on, is part of that process. So when he was asked what was his proudest moment, his answer was 53 CEOs, 53 other people running other companies that had once worked with him. And so watching other people flourish, even to the point where they might leave the nest, that is inevitable. But yet, if you really, truly become excited, and if your purpose becomes watching other people thrive, your business will thrive with it.
You know, Steve, I really believe that. I have at different times in looking for resources contacted people and asked them questions, and oftentimes have met with this, I'm sorry, we don't disclose our resources or information, and not interested in helping you. And because of that, I have always felt like if somebody asked me for help, I would rather offer them the help that has helped me. And so I've tried to kind of keep that in mind if anybody has ever contacted me about something to do with business, that it's so much more, it makes me feel good that somebody helped me get here, and if I can just turn a little piece of that over to somebody else, that makes me feel good.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, and you know, finding people to help you involves delegating, and so many indie business owners are terrified of that idea.
It becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. So often what happens with independent business owners is they'll tell me, I'm the best at this, though. I'm the best at selling it, or I'm the best at creating it, or the customers love me the best. And then it becomes self-fulfilling. Once you've determined that no one can do it better than you, then you just will never find someone. You'll never agree that someone else might even be better than you at something. And so the only way to grow is to find people you can put in positions that are literally better at that specific job than you are. And that is a hard thing for some people to believe that it's possible, but yet, again, I promise that if you talk to someone who's had sustained profitable growth, they'll always point to that moment in time where they realized that it was better for them to extricate themselves from the thing that they were doing and to start to manage those that do the thing.
Well, it's like the only way to really grow.
It's inevitable. It absolutely is inevitable.
So, Steve, we've covered 7 steps here. Now, so
we missed one. We didn't talk about seeing the future more clearly, which is really just pretty obvious.
I'm sorry.
People who see the future more clearly. We aren't able to predict the future. That's impossible. But people who have sustained growth appear more able to do it. They're better guessers. And the reason they're able to do that is all the other things we've talked about. That they see things that other people don't see in terms of opportunity and changes in people, changes in markets, and they're able to more efficiently take advantage of change and see things a little bit more clearly, a little bit more quickly.
Well, and I guess when you're so steeped in something, when you have done your research and when you continue to fine-tune your business plan with changes in society, changes in the market, changes in your life, changes in your business cycle, it's almost inevitable that you will be a visionary where your business is concerned because you know it so well.
If you do it right, exactly. And my publisher laughs at me because I always talk about other people's books. I just talked about Joe Calloway's book I think is so strong. It's called A Customer of One. Mm-hmm. The best business book I read last year, it was on the New York Times bestseller list for almost the entire year, was a book called Made to Stick. Mm-hmm. And it's about ideas and what ideas stick and what don't and why do they stick and what is common about ideas that stick. And they have the idea or the concept of what they call the curse of knowledge. And I wish I had written it. One of the things I said, I wish I had thought that, because I've been saying it for years. They have the perfect phrase. One of the biggest barriers to growth for people I run into every day is that they know so much that they can no longer see. The things that made them successful is their ability to understand markets well and to see the future more clearly. But then they become successful and they start believing their own press clippings and they start losing that ability. And it becomes a curse of knowledge. They know so much that they can't imagine the changes. And so it's always the outside, the industry that usurp, that come in, and the ripples on the periphery that turn into tsunamis so often come from outside the center. And in any industry or any fashion, fads, things that, when I go to a trade show, the more often I hear that will never happen, that's the more likely that it will happen.
Right.
And so because it's too upsetting to the status quo, they're all talking about it because, that'll never happen. And I've just seen it too often in my career that is what will happen. And so, yes, seeing the future more clearly and having that ability is what gets people to a certain level, and you don't want to ever lose that or turn that off. And that comes from taking yourself away from day to day and heads down and working on the problems of today and looking really at the opportunities of tomorrow.
So as much as you know, don't get so wrapped up in what you know that you kind of lose sight of where things are going.
Business growth leaders spend over half their time on the issues of tomorrow.
Well, I remember when the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky was asked how it is that he's so successful at what he did, and he said, because everybody else is skating to where the puck is, and I'm skating to where it's going.
And it's funny, in my new book, I looked into that and searched high and low, and what's interesting is, yes, he's been attributed with that. Like so many quotes, he maintains he never said it. And but it's still a great analogy, and it's a great idea, and so I used it in my book because it's a perfect way of saying it, where the puck is going to be, not where it is. And
did you talk to him, and he said he never said it?
His people say he never said it, and if you look online, you'll see that he's disavowed himself of it many times. But that's not an unlikely thing. It happens so often with quotes. Some of the most famous quotes that you and I use all the time that we attribute to people, they actually never said. But that's pop culture, isn't it?
He should have said it.
Yeah.
I said
it's a great. Well, that's the reason it sticks. It's a sticky idea because it's so much like what he would have said.
And it certainly is true. No matter what business you're in, you gotta go in the direction where things are going, or else you're going to get stuck where you are.
Yeah, you realize "Play It Again, Sam" was never in the movie Casablanca. The most famous line for Casablanca that people quote all the time, "Play It Again, Sam," was never in the movie. So these things they just kind of stick with us, and off we go. But yes, it doesn't matter if he said it. It's a great sentiment, and it's a great idea for how one gets ahead.
Well, Stephen S. Little, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to remind everyone to visit Stephen's website at StephenSLittle.com. You can get his books there. And Steve, you've got about 20 seconds to tell us about your new book coming out in a couple of months.
New book's coming out April 4th. It's called The Milkshake Moment, which doesn't mean much, but the subtitle perhaps does. It's called The Milkshake Moment, Overcoming Stupid Systems, Pointless Policies, and Muddled Management to Realize Real Growth. And it's all about what we do to shoot ourselves in the foot. The first book was about what to concentrate on. The second book is about why do we keep doing things that we know won't help us, but we keep doing them.
Well, we want to make sure we pick up a copy of that as well. Thank you so much for joining, and Cheryl, thank you for you being here as my guest Indie co-host.
You're welcome.
Indie Business Radio is produced by Indie Business Media, LLC. I invite you to join the discussion at the indiebusinessblog.com, and you can stream or download all Indie Business Radio shows at my website, indiebusinessradio.com. I've got some great shows coming up for you next week. The author of The Procrastinator will be here, Stop Procrastination Now. And the following week, the host and producer of SBTV.com will be here to share some tips and talk about her new book. I hope to see you then. In the meantime, enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.